You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Meta Show. It is Saturday, June the 13th. As you can see, this is a Fireside edition, which is the best kind because it means we don't have anything to talk about, so we're just going to talk to each other.
Yeah, we're just going to run our fucking mouths for like the entire time. And well, we got a lot to celebrate, don't we? So like, we as in all of the gentlemen here, not myself, but I will celebrate for all three of you. High fives all around, clapping, etc. Congratulations to Markelchin, to Brisk, and to Anominate for their successful CSM campaigns and victories, which we got to watch live. Was that yesterday? Time's a blur. I can't remember. Was Friday? Was that yesterday?
It was yesterday. Before? It was yesterday afternoon. Almost an hour ago. Yesterday afternoon.
All is madness. But
you congratulate us, but you know what we're actually getting into. So.
Have fun storming the castle, boys.
For us.
And yes, as Noisy Gamer points out, I should indeed be celebrating that I'm not on the CSM. It is always funny when people ask me to run, and I'm like, no, we have people for that. They like it, they enjoy it, and they're good at their jobs. Like it's a really good crew. I'm very happy with this slate. I was actually really pleased to see that Mike Azaria got on because. People out in NullSec might not know him, but he's been like a long time. I mean, hell, I think I've seen Mike run for CSM before, like years and years and years ago. But he was on my radar even when I was on the CSM, like a fucking decade ago or now or something like that. So he's a good egg, and he's very newbie focused, which is super cool. And just in general, it looks like it's a good slate. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm talking about all the stuff, and you're the guys that are actually now on the CSM. So what did you guys think about it? How was thoughts, impressions, victory laps?
Well, every year there's always a few of those candidates who, their personality, and God, if they get on the CSM, it's going to be a terrible year. And I don't think we have any of those this year.
Which is helpful.
Yeah,
it makes me happy because God knows the last thing I kept hearing. And one of the good things about me getting reelected is funny because I talked to a bunch of guys, including some of the guys that are rotating off, and they all want to tell me stuff that's happening, but they can't because of the NDA. But now that I'm back on, they can. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of the fun stories that you guys haven't told me about all the crazy shit that happened last year. But yeah, it's nice. I'll tell you, I don't know about what Merc thinks, but for me, I've been telling everybody, all the babies out there who cry every election about how, NullSec, it's always this, it's only goons. And when I got elected the first time, it was the goon CSM because there were like 5 of us. And all we heard was the GSM and all this other nonsense. This time, there's just as many PanFam guys as there are goons. We've got 3 folks that are unaligned. One that represents LowSec, one that represents the stream community and PvEing and faction warfare and abyssal stuff. And then we got a HighSec guy. This is like by far the most diverse from playstyle perspectives I've seen in a while. And even then, if you look at the NullSec guys, you got Villy, who's an FC. You got Maria, who is the IT professional for Fraternity, just like we have Nom Nom, who is the Goons IT guy. We've got Kenneth Feld, who is the PanFam version of Aerith. So you got an industry guy. You got 2 guys that are tech guys. You got random line members like me. You got Merc, who's like the new bro guy. I mean, how else can you possibly... I mean, I don't know how anybody can sit here and complain. This is what you guys wanted. This is probably the healthiest looking CSM we've seen in a while, other than, unfortunately, our dear friends in the wormholes.
Yeah, so apparently I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw somebody, and I don't know what their space name is. It's a Reddit username, BardGhostISU, who was saying that they had created a skill farm. And that the reason why the wormholers didn't get on and like Laura Seca whiffed by like 30 votes is that this skill farm with like 250 odd accounts, maybe 214, I forgot the exact number, was shoved over onto the dude whose name I completely forgot, the like low sec PvP like the Reddit meme candidate?
Torvald or Phantomite?
Phantomite. Oh, he's the high sec guy. I don't know. I don't understand.
He's the low sec guy. Well,
I have no idea who that
Torvald
one is.
They're both low seckers.
Right. I know that Torvald does like abyssal guides and stuff like that, but you know, I obviously don't pay exact attention to what's happening on the CSM stuff because we focus on making sure that we get out the vote and do like our thing in as disciplined a way as possible. So you know, sometimes when there are people on the CSM that I don't, you know, I'm not really all over it. I'm just like, who the hell is this guy? And, you know, what is this? But wormholers were very close to having at least a representative, I think. No, you're shaking your head. You don't think so? Tell me about this. Look, I have no idea. Are you the wormhole CSM now?
Unfortunately, I have to be. It sucks because there's nobody. I mean, look, this is what drives me crazy. And I know the wormholers hate me. I don't really give a shit. I'll represent your issues as best as I can. But you guys not having your own candidate on there, you got nobody to blame but yourselves. I'm dead serious. If you look at the numbers, Exuki and Laura Secco had within 30 votes of each other to start. They both had in the 950 range, and Exo had more down the road until the very end, when Laura Secco took advantage of the fact that he was like number 3 on the legacy ballot and got all the extra votes from Villy when he got elected. And then he had other votes that kind of sprinkled down to him. But the reality is, wormholers only have enough votes to put one guy on. So they got to pick their guy and go from that. Now, if there are more than one wormholer on there, they can still win, but it takes all the wormhole guys together putting all the wormhole guys on their ballots, which they didn't do. Because if you see, when Exuki goes out, a large chunk of his votes did go to Laura Secco, which it makes sense. A large chunk went to me, which also makes sense because I fly with the TDSIN guys all the time now, and they're my friends.
Right.
And then a bunch of it went to Mike Azariah, and I'm like, okay, you guys are voting. I don't get it. But in the end, the bottom line was, you guys have to vote for all the candidates that represent your area of space. You can't just start playing games like, well, Exuki is actually an initiative mercenaries now, so he's not really a wormholer. Go fuck yourself. The guy's a wormholer. He's been a wormholer his whole time. The fact that he's sitting on our couch in nullsec for 6 months while he waits to go back to a wormhole when HK is not going to come a victim every 5 minutes, that doesn't mean he's not a wormholer. And every time I see that, it triggers me because it's just the dumbest, stupid thing I've ever heard.
If you look at like the nullsec ballots, you can see that all the nullsec groups have realized that, you know, having your counterpart in an enemy alliance on the CSM is still beneficial for you. So, like, you know, we hate Horde. Having Goblins on the CSM is still better than not having any representation at all.
Yeah, and in nullsec, this is something that like we figured out when nullsec first got seriously involved in the CSM. Like there wasn't like an organized nullsec block kind of thing until CSM 6, which was the one that I was the chairman on. And one of the things that we discovered is that, you know, Elise and Celine were on that CSM with me, and they were PL guys. And you know, nullsec people represent nullsec issues. Like pretty much when you come to the table, unless you're like really petty and bad at politics, which maybe, you know, some of the nullsec representatives are, I have no idea. It's not my problem anymore. But functionally speaking, we found that it didn't matter. The fact that we were killing the shit out of each other in the video game meant that when the nullsec block people came to talk to nullsec issues to CCP, we were all on the same side because we all had experienced the same things in the same battles against one another. And it made it more effective to communicate, because like when Goonswarm and Pandemic Legion are both saying, yo, this is what's up, it kind of skips past the whole, you know, ooh, is it a goon metagame or is it a PL metagame or whatever. So I'm really happy. Like Gobbins is, as far as I've heard, you know, Gobbins seems to be doing great. High fives all around. Villy, we know when we trust him, that's fine. Yeah, so it's a really good slate, I think. But I'm obviously biased. So yeah.
Mark, was there anything you were surprised at by the results?
I'm really, really glad that you asked that, Brusk. Yes. I've had a day to reflect on the results of this entire election. Wow. Wow is the only thing that I can say. They said it couldn't be done. It was done. Here we are, right? Census numbers were sketchy. Exit polls were super squirrely. We had a totally bizarro announcement of who won that only took like a brief 45 minutes. It was like the double reverse cuck platform simp edition. Totally tried to make it like into some kind of heart attack inducing event, if not only for the strength of the block, just bringing it home right away. So while we sat there certain of ourselves, you and I were talking behind the scenes, Brisk, we knew where this was all going. I was happy to see that at least there was an explanation of the single transferable vote thing for people, because I think a lot of people get that really confused there. Everybody assumes the buckets spill from the top when actually it's spilling from the bottom. That's what she said. And then like the lowest candidates are getting knocked off kind of one at a time. So it's really, really interesting to see it play out. Credit to CCP Aurora for doing it that way. It was cool. But holy shit, if you were one of those guys kind of hanging in the middle of the votes right there, that was just absolutely incredible. It was breathtaking to think. And I was a little worried about you guys. You know, I'm thinking, holy shit, my buddy's here with his heart beaten out of his chest for a sustained 45 minutes, you know?
And it was like, dude, you got this. But no, you know.
I mean, I'll tell you, it was freaky, and it was funny because, you know, like Mark said, we were talking back and forth during the thing. And when they put the vote total number up of like 36,000, I immediately said to him, oh shit, this is bad. Because high turnout in a CSM election tends to benefit the non-aligned candidates because they're tending to bring in new people. And it tends to hurt the block candidates. So we're sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh shit, there's a bunch of unaligned guys. Who's going to be the new Olmeca that's got like 3,000 votes that nobody saw coming out of anywhere? And you look at it and you pull it up and you see Torvald starting out with like 1,000 votes, which was crazy. I don't think folks expected that. Then I'm looking at other folks that I expected to do really well. Like Bunny had 1,000 votes. That was great. I thought Bunny was fine.
What the hell happened? What happened with NC?
So basically, I mean, essentially, and you guys know how NC Dot tends to be. They don't always want to vote, and they're lazy about it. And Vince and Lady Scarlet and them don't force these guys. It's like it's the same way. Sister Bliss doesn't want to force anybody to vote, so there's no assigned ballots. There's no multiple pings a week. There's none of that stuff. They'll just say, "Hey, look, go vote," and they'll say, "These are our people," and they'll put 3 or 4 or 5 people on there. But Bunny was number 1 on NC Dot's ticket, and Ken Feld was number 2, and then on the other side. For PL, Ken Feld was number 1, and I think Bunny was on there somewhere, but I don't think he was number 2. And then the other thing was I didn't understand from Horde was Horde had Gob as number 1, and then Maria from Fraternity number 2, and then Bunny was like 5th on the Horde ballot, so he got none of those votes from the Horde guys. So in the end, he's just kind of sitting out there, and he and Ken Feld were both kind of in the same area until like the very end when Bunny finally, I think Bunny ended up getting kicked out on like the 27th round and gave like 900 votes to Ken Feld, and that was enough to put him over the top so that he pulled it off. So at least, you know, PL NC Dot got somebody on there, but it was until the very dead last end of it, which was kind of crazy. And then I think, like I said, the Wormholers had the same problem. They had 2 guys that are right around 1,000 votes, and they never gelled. Now, I will say this for Laura Secco. He is in 11th place. There has been, I think, maybe 3 CSMs in the last 10 years that have not had any replacements on there. So there's still a pretty good chance that Laura Secco ends up on the CSM this year, assuming that somebody drops out, which is entirely possible. And we've seen
usually, like
I don't know.
I think in most of the CSMs, that's you go.
If somebody does drop out, I'm pretty sure somehow Sort Dragon will wind up on the CSM again.
All right, especially if it's one of the PL guys, right? So we'll see how that ends up working out. But, you know, the Wormhole guys, that's just the most frustrating thing because they have the votes. Exuki was a good CSM member. I don't care what these guys say. He did his job. He provided more information to CCP about wormholes than the guys there working on the game knew. And, you know, with I think the main CCP wormhole guy, whose name escapes me at the minute, I think is leaving the company. So there's nobody else. I mean, having somebody on there to do your stuff is pretty critical. And because somebody decided that Exuki wasn't a wormholer anymore because he got evicted twice, that they would all vote for somebody else and he loses. Well, okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed your blue loot, because you can tell you that's probably going to go away, and there's
You
not going
played
to be
yourself.
anybody up on there giving you, protecting you all. I can try, but I don't know your stuff as well as one of those guys would. And hell, you all hate me anyway, so I don't even know why I bother. But in the end, it's just like, you can't, if you're gonna screw over somebody that represents your play style just because of in-game politics or in-game stuff, that's just dumb. That's just, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
I don't think you should be talking badly about the balkanization of the votes outside of our block, because that is what ensures every year.
Right. You're right. It's my bad.
We love to see it.
I
We
shouldn't be giving them
genuinely love to see
advice.
it.
I'm sorry.
You're showing them the formula right now of how to unfuck their fucked shit.
But they
and
don't
we
listen to
want
me, so
do
who cares?
That, you know?
It's not like they're going to listen to me.
Well,
I
that's
try to
actually
tell
one
them
of the-
this, and they tell, shut up, Brisk, you're a fucking nullsec loser. Don't
it's
fuck up.
great to do that, because like one of the things about our erstwhile competitors is that oftentimes if we say something, especially like we do this all the time on the Meta Show, is I will spell out something that is actually a good thing that we are doing that we know is effective, but because of the way that like the pubby brain disease works or whatever, it's like arguing with QAnon people, right? Like they're so out there, or like they believe that ancient aliens have come down and built the pyramids or something or other, right? Where nothing you can say will convince them. But if you say something that sounds reasonable, i.e. the truth of here is how you put people on the CSM, we have literally been doing this since CSM 6 in lockstep. Here is the formula. Anyone with a spy in the Imperium can find it out. But if we say it in public and we spell it out, especially if it's coming from my mouth, it must be a goon conspiracy and trust not the goon. And then they basically waste a whole bunch of their votes, and we laugh all the way to Iceland. So high fives all around.
There you go. I don't get it, and there's nothing worse than when the guy's there doing his job, trying to stop CCP from doing bad stuff, and they decide to do it anyway. So you hold him accountable for it. Okay. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. But unfortunately, that's politics. That happens in real life all the time. So
I think that perhaps the fact that their values make them different has come back to bite them in their stupid asses, and that's okay with me. This is the thing. So we've got work to do, right? Let's shift gears here.
Here we go.
I'm starting to think about this. I mean, who knows if we're going to get to Iceland? Mittens just made me think of that when he said that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we may not go to Iceland for 10 fucking years, because we're certainly not going to go if we've got to go into mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks, right? Like I will come back home to my shit sitting in the front yard of my house if I'm gone for 2 weeks at one time for a CSM summit. So we do have the complexity of travel to think about, and the fact that we may have all just signed up for more Zoom meetings, right? Like that's what we all
God knows
need.
we need
Everybody
more of that.
wants in their lives right now.
Like
Yes, more
the
fucking Zoom.
privilege of doubling up the amount of Zoom meetings I get to go on each week, right? Like I've really had a fun time for the first 15 minutes fucking with my Microsoft Teams background, but the novelty is gone, right? So we're at the part where we've actually got to do some work. CCP, obviously, that's the Slack organization, so thank God that's what my company uses, so I get to diddle around on that. But we're going to have to get a lot of work done, and we're probably going to have to do it without being able to break bread with these guys. So anybody who's been on the CSM, Mittens, I'm sure this was a case back in your day, you feel like you get 90% of your work done as a CSM when you're actually in Reykjavik. So
Absolutely.
The idea of not doing it at all it's kind of spooky, and I just wonder how it's going to go. Like, are we just it's going to be these walls of text and like, this is my vision, this is what my constituency demands of me this year, and I don't know. I'm starting to have buyer's remorse right now.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that, but it's true. Is that like a lot of the trust building that happens with just humans, period, it doesn't matter whether it's CSM or anything, is like you meet somebody and you go have a drink with them, or you hang out with them or something. You see them face to face, you achieve some sort of commonality, some degree of empathy, I know who this person really is. And it's hard to do that when it's purely over text, especially in an environment where, there's not necessarily trust. Like if you get smashed with somebody from CCP and you're up drinking until 4 a.m. and not talking about spaceships because you're that drunk, you've then at least established a dialogue of like, this is a person who I can roll hard with. At least that's the old school CSM with old school CCP was much more party oriented. Those guys are mostly at Riot now, but anyway, and
they still got some
key.
good partiers in there.
That's good.
We still got some guys that'll stay out and close the bars.
Berger knows how to roll hard. Mad props to him. He knows how to party. He's fun, but. Yeah, so it is going to be a challenge having it all remote because, you know, having to break down the boundaries of there's an inherent amount of mistrust, and it's not a bad level of mistrust. The developers know less about the type of the aspects of the gameplay that the players are talking about. So when a CSM is talking about nullsec stuff, by nature, by just who they're representing and what they're doing, the nullsec CSMs are going to know way more about that particular topic because that's what they play the game all day doing than a given dev. And so you really, in a lot of times, need the bars and the clubs and the outside of the conference room opportunities to bond and establish that trust, because otherwise there is a reasonable assumption and a fear of an informational disadvantage between the player representatives and the developers. So I hadn't really thought about that, but actually, like, trying to do a CSM in the middle of a cyber apocalypse with a freaking pandemic going on, that's good luck out there. Have fun storming the castle, guys.
Right. Thanks. Nam, do you think we're actually going to get to go to Iceland?
I hope so. I don't like the move to a single summit, but I think that regardless of what they were going to do, this year would be a single summit year anyways. So I do think that by the time that rolls around, that we'll probably be able to go.
I hope that we can talk.
Wait, is there only one? There's only one. Even
they changed it to just one summit, and I hope that we can talk to them about that because I'll be honest, I feel like I don't know. You guys,
I think two was really important back in the day because the first one was really when you go there and you meet people and you establish that, and then all that time between the first summit and the second summit, then the text and I guess now the Zoom. Once you know each other, the vibe is much more congenial, right? If it's a good CSM, and then you can get a lot of stuff done between the summits. So
exactly, and I feel like not having the second chance. Go ahead.
There's also very much a matter of, like, the first summit is, all right, what is CCP working on? Or what is CCP going to do?
Right.
And the second summit then is, all right, what actually happened? And so, having that introduction and then the follow-up there, I think, is particularly important.
And I think from my perspective, having been on one time, you guys have, Mittens and I have both been on once. You guys have been on multiple ones. At least for me, having the chance to go there, establish your bona fides, get to know the guys, talk to them, put faces with names. It takes a while to even figure out who's who. Mm-hmm. Because you're meeting everybody, and they don't go by their CCP names when you talk to them. So I'm like, it took me a while to figure out, Semi is good fellow. Oh, great, now I know who this guy is. But in that type of thing, it takes a while to figure that out. By the time you do that, you spend a year, 6 or 7 months working and taking every Friday meeting and doing what you got to do. And then you get to the second summit. The second summit I felt like was always the most productive because we had stuff to go over that we had already been through. We'd all been prepared to talk about the stuff we've been working on for months and months and months. And that was always the best thing. So I'm hoping that we can talk to Dopamine and the guys and try to convince them that a 2-session summit is better than one. If
it's all over Zoom anyway, right? Like, because of pandemic stuff. Like, if you guys aren't able to physically get there, having are they even? Man, I have so many questions now. Actually,
well, I think this year is a single summit year, regardless of what CCP says or does.
Right.
Pandemic. So, I figure we have a year to work on changing their mind and going back to 2 summits.
It puts Brisk at a huge disadvantage because, honestly, once the first summit was ended, I'm pretty sure 90% of the Icelanders thought that he was a cop. They weren't sure who the guy in the suit was. So it took some time for us to at least get the messaging across that, number one, you're not in trouble. Number 2, if he's a cop, he has to tell you. Number 3, he's not your father and he's not mad at you. He's a friend, And so by the time we got there the second time, we had hit our stride. We were at our fighting weight. We were ready to go, and it all went just super gravy. So this time's going to be a little bit weird because there's going to be some newcomers that are like, who's this guy? Why is he dressed? Because this is a tech company thing. I work in a different kind of environment where I wear clothes like this to work. But needless to say, if you were to walk around the headquarters of Blizzard or whoever, you're going to see a lot of people in what looks like they woke up in that morning in flip-flops and stuff like that. And certainly CCP is no exception. So Brisk showing up, rocking the suit, the little American flag naturally, like American Dad. You know, they're just like, I'm not sure what to make of all this, but I feel like I'm in trouble.
And the best part was
my lawyer here.
Well, the best part was like the last day of the first summit, they announced that Pearl Abyss acquired the company. So I'm thinking everybody's thinking I'm the fucking lawyer there doing the deal. I'm not actually like a player or anything. It was pretty funny. So anyway,
Okay. Well, let's see. What the hell else has been going on? I mean, we had, or do you guys, you know, I'm not sure whether, is there more CSMing? Do we want to talk about the CSM
fuck it.
more?
Let's
we
get
don't
out
even talk
of
about
here.
this
Eject.
anymore. We've killed this topic.
We could do moon rentals next. I love moon rentals.
Oh, dear
I've got
God,
this
no.
idea about how to change up ratting in the Imperium wide. I think maybe we could talk about it and then
Can we
argue it out in
Can we
Twitch chat.
change the standing fleet name? That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, this is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mitten. It's your
No,
show.
you
I
go,
don't
you
mind.
go, you go.
Okay, we have work to do, right? So you got a bunch of like old vestigial CSMs that are coming back one more time. You've got a couple new ones that are coming in for the first time. They're going to kind of hit that brick wall that all of us hit at one time or another, where you're like, okay, wait, this is actually a company that's decided what they're going to do well ahead of time, and now I've got to start to kind of dance and jive with those guys. So this year, maybe I thought we could each talk about, like, if we had one little tiny like pet issue, what would we try to ramrod through, like in a perfect world? I know for me, the one that I'm going to be going for day one, let's Black Ops battleships. Like they're already in the game. They're ripe for a quick little iterative change to maybe give them some value, something like, I don't know, a giant fuel bay on them, something, maybe a couple little extra bonuses, something like that. Brisk, you were the most professional. I was telling Brisk before the show, I was showing my father some of Brisk campaign videos, and my dad was just talking shit about how I don't ever do things like that. And Brisk is such a professional, rolling out of his bed with his suit on. But, you know, Brisk, I know you probably have ideas already. What are you going to be trying to rumble into Reykjavik pitching yourself?
I mean, look, I want to go hand in glove with Torvald and Phantomite and these guys and be like, look, it's Lowsec's turn. They gotta do something about faction warfare in Lowsec. I mean, it drives me absolutely crazy. We've been sitting here, you know, Nom got the War Deck issues fixed for HiSec. We finally got some more PvE, even if the HiSec guys don't always like the PvE. Nullsec is generally okay. We just have balance changes and typical stuff to deal with. And obviously Citadels are an issue everywhere. But the bottom line is, Lowsec, what's the point of it? Why does it exist? Can there be a reason for it to be there? And they've tried to do this like piecemeal. They dump, well, level 5 missions are here. And you can do this type of faction warfare that provides this type of LP. And there's lots of money-making opportunities. But in the end, Snuffed is going to kill anything bigger than a battleship anywhere in Lowsec if they catch you. It's hard to base out of there. It's hard for these Lowsec groups to really flourish because they're kind of caught between everything. And if they get big enough that any of us notice them, we go stomp on them. So what's the point of it? So I think, if anything, I want to basically tell CCP and get CCP to say, look, Lowsec needs to have a reason to be there. It can't just be some buffer area. It needs to have a reason to exist. Let's look at it from a holistic perspective, put together some plans, make it a long couple-month development cycle, whatever they want to do, like they did with the War Deck changes, and finally give these guys something that fixes that area of space so that people want to be there. Because right now it's just the pass-through area, or it's just a random area where people sometimes go to fight. You know, and Crime Watch and the rest of that stuff drives me absolutely crazy. The mechanics down there drive me absolutely crazy. It's a pain in the ass. So I'd like to work with those guys to do that. That's my big push for this year.
Nominate? What's your? Oh, sorry. We want to talk about that, but yeah.
I'm just going to continue tilting at the windmill that is getting nullification removed. It's a terrible mechanic. It prevents fights. It prevents defense. It's just a way for people to avoid playing the game.
And it's also like 30% done already, so we could just walk that one across the finish line. I think you're right. If anybody ever gate camps anymore in EVE, which is one of at least my favorite activities, because it's one where we all kind of get to just sit on our butts, bullshit together, tell stories about the Mosh Master, and drink 15 beers. there's nothing more obnoxious than malediction, Ares, malediction. You're just kind of like, these motherfuckers, like back in the day, you would at least have to be like skilled enough to crash the gate camp and get through, or pull some cloaky hijinks. Mittens, I know you like have been playing some serious spaceships these days, which should scare everybody.
Like, I love it.
They're like,
I see him out every night. It's great. He's been out more than me the last week and so.
When he gets like this, be afraid, because things start happening. So Mittens, anything out there that you're feeling feels broken, feels good? Like, what's out there?
Well, I mean, Anomaly is really sort of like singing my tune, I think. I didn't even know that I had an opinion about this until he suggested getting rid of the last bit of malediction obnoxiousness, or Ares obnoxiousness, because I personally have a grudge against every single interdictor, every single interceptor, every single E-War frigate, basically all of the small shit that doesn't normally get primaried. What I like to do in EVE Online, because for me, EVE Online is like one of the only games in the world where you get to fuck with people, and that's the game. And it's fun for you to fuck with people, especially if you don't like them. So Wars, when I actually play in the client, it's like, I'm shooting this person, I'm sending them home, and their fight is over for now. I have removed them from the battlefield, and I really like doing that to like old school goons often end up having like PTSD from dealing with snaked out, warp stabbed vagabonds. I'm talking about back in like early 2006, late 2005, where you're like a little baby goon and you're like mining Ferox because you didn't know any better. You had minor twos on a freaking Ferox, and there you're in Syndicate with 500 other newbies who have no SP, you have no idea what's going on. And there's these dudes, usually like people who are in Bob, flying around with like snaked out vagabonds and just hunting us for sport. And they would also do this in crows, right? And so you'd have these snaked out crows, and they're just completely untouchable. And now, so this, after many years, it does become kind of a personal thing where you say, I want to ruin that interceptor jock's day. They are smug, and I'm going to just, like trap shooting kind of thing. And so one of the things that has annoyed me as I have spent this last week and a half, actually ever since we deployed up to F7C, I've been flying anti-support, and it's been delightful. But I have repeatedly watched these fucking interceptors with their nullification zoom in and then bubbles everywhere, and then they just go away, usually when they're just barely in structure and before I can splatter them. So, yeah, but otherwise, I will rant about killing interceptors all day, every day. I genuinely, I love anti-support. It's an unhealthy kind of thing. But other than that, I would say NPC space needs to be, this is the thing I've been saying, and every nullsec CSM on CSM 6 and going forward, I don't know what CSM said after that, but it has been a recurring issue, is that it is necessary to have NPC nullsec in every single conquerable nullsec region, because it adds to content, gameplay, to excitement, and also at a strategic level, you can, there's counterplay, right? Like, so for example, if people want to fuck with the Imperium, they can fuck with the Imperium by going to Fountain Core. They can fuck with the Imperium by going to Delve. There is NPC stations there, and makes it easy for people to come harass us, which I like because it gives us something to do at home. But what is effed up is if you look at Amist, if you look at the deep drone regions, these big ass boring regions, which are a pain to get to. And we know they're a pain to get to because we have been trying to get there. Like, we have been like seeding, like we were killing Titans up in R10 because we were seeding dreadnoughts, and just getting that shit up there to mess with Horde was such a pain in the ass because you need NPC nullsec. So inherently, these regions become havens of botting because nobody gets there, nobody harasses them because it's just difficult. So I have always said before, I'll say it again, NPC nullsec in every goddamn region of SOV. Simple.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I mean, everybody should have the opportunity, if they want to go up there and mess with the big blocks, to have a place to stage from that's free. We have no problem. I mean, that's the bottom line. NPC Delve has been there forever. That's where Omeka and the guys do all their staging out of. Fountain, every time Snuff comes to try to dread bomb our Titans and our Supers and stuff, they're all staging at an NPC space. That's how you do it. So, it's frustrating that there are areas of the game that don't provide at least that little bit of a beachhead for groups to go in and harass everybody else. Because there are, as much as I get annoyed when people claim that nullsec is too safe, because I feel like those people tend to be talking about Delve, which is not true. The fact is there are parts of NPC space that's way too safe. And the best way to make it less safe is to make more NPC space. That gives people a place to hide and go where they can't get evicted and can't get moved out. And that's always a good thing. It's good to be a little scared when you undock something. There should not be any
safety is
time.
boring. Safety is
Right.
boring. You know, it's one of those things where, like, we were able to reach out and kill a number of Titans in R1O over the last month. But it was a tremendous amount of work from a number of players within the Imperium working out how to do it, arranging the logistics of it. It was a tremendous pain in the ass. And you contrast that with Delve, where somebody can be like Olmeca Gold. You don't have to go like the full like 60 odd accounts or whatever, but essentially, if you wanted to go harass a nullsec empire and you are a small gang PvPer or you're a like solo PvPer and you think that you should be able to stick it to the man, well, if you want to stick it to the man, give it a try sometime. Like, don't just listen to me saying this on the meta show and like go, oh, Gur Matani. You can do that anyway because I don't give a shit. But try it for yourself. Try going out there to Oasa, or try going to Amist or one of these far-flung nullsec sov regions as somebody who wants to be a hunter. Right? Try to go whaling out there. Just give it a go yourself. And you will find that if you do not have the infrastructure and the support of a vast organization of people working together, it is very difficult to get out there and actually have any fun or make any impact whatsoever. So that's the nice thing about NPC nullsec, is it allows people who are not part of an alliance, maybe a little corp of people with like maybe 5 guys or even like solo people, they have a safe base station from which to mess with people like us. And it's something the game has always needed. And I personally, I don't know if this is true or not. This has been my personal conspiracy theory since I made the reference to the aliens building the pyramids and QAnon stuff. My personal conspiracy theory, and I would love to be proven wrong by CCP. I would love to be proven wrong by CCP, is that CCP has lost the coding ability due to spaghetti code or whatever, that they do not know how to make new NPC nullsec. And I would love to be proven wrong by CCP showing that they can actually change the map, because you can see they're working on it with the Trigsoft stuff and Raravos and like all that. So yeah, like the POS code was so bad with spaghetti code that they were just making citadels. And I would really like to see CCP prove to us that they can alter the map by make some NPC, show us you can do it, make some NPC nullsec somewhere. Let's do it.
What's hysterical is a group that lives in a place that has plenty of that shit. You would think that, like, if you're an outsider looking in on the Imperium, for instance, you would be like, God, these people pick just terrible regions because they're going to be under siege. But the way that I look at it is these guys that are out like in the middle of nowhere, like I'm backed into a corner. I sort of look at them as like the people that you see on television, like getting taken out of their house on a forklift to go to the doctor. Like there's no threat whatsoever. You know, there's just nothing there.
Fat and soft. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
These people get completely soft. They get completely fat. You can even look over like towards Brave Newbies, for instance. You know, they've got impasse and all of that stuff available to them, and yet go to catch. They're all in catch. Why are they in catch? Because they know your bitch ass is going to come to catch, you know, and they want to shoot you. So yeah. It's the same reason that goons don't back themselves into a corner. We just sit there and delve saying, okay, let's see, take your best shot. You know, you may win, we may win, but we are going to be here and we are going to take the fight. So I think that as an alliance or as a coalition, a greater group of people, you end up in a situation where you want that kind of burn. You are going to lose some supers. You're going to lose a Titan here and there. You're going to lose a bunch of shit, but that's good for you, right? Yeah. It helps create sort of a vibrant moving economy where ships are being sold, they're getting lost, they're being replaced, and instead you're the guy out there in the drone lands that is literally stuck to your couch. You're going to need a fucking surgeon to get you off the couch. And we're going to all be watching you on Telemundo as a forklift backs up to your house and they got to knock a fucking wall down just to pull your bitch ass out to go to the doctor, you know?
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's things to put socks on. When you're too fat to put socks on, you need to have like a special thing.
Have somebody help you put the socks on. There we go. Because you can't see your toes.
It would be good for everybody. The funny thing is I think there will be immense resistance from the people that don't have it because they think it's like the boogeyman. We all sleep really good at night. I promise you that, you know, so
It
you don't have
doesn't
to
bother
fear
us.
this,
We're
right?
used
It's
to
an absolute non-issue. You just work around it, you know, and yet it allows that sort of give and take that happens in you know, those regions. So I love it. And I think if I lived in one of those regions that was backed up in the middle of nowhere, unless I was like botting, RMTing, or doing some other fuckery, I would say bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, from a certain perspective, one of the features that CCP has recently added to the game that has been broadly hailed by basically everybody as just good and we wanted more of it was the filaments, right? What is the gimmick of a filament? It lets you send 25 people to go get some PvP somewhere. Well, it's kind of the same thing with NPC space, because here's the thing. You get a filament, you get shot out to the drone regions. You might look around here and go, wow, there's a whole bunch of people who are like crabbing and like there's lots of targets here. We can do something about it. But if you don't have the NPC space, you're not going to be able to come back there and do anything. So if filaments are good and players like them, similarly, essentially NPC pockets in nullsec create the exact same sort of conditions as a filament. It is a recurring low-level filament. You know, nobody is going to be staging a cap fleet out in, you know, Owasso or whatever. But if you're a little corporation, like let's say that, you know, let's say you're an up and coming little baby corporation, you start out in Providence or you're in Brave Newbies or something or other, and you want to see if you can actually like go out on your own and like blow some stuff up and maybe get a little bit more herf blurf. Maybe you get into killboard whoring. Maybe you get obsessed with blapping interceptors, right? You know. So how do you do that? Well, if you don't have that NPC space to be able to go out there and base out of for like a week or two and give it a go, you know, you're screwed. You can't even try it. So I can talk paint off a wall about this shit, but I think that Mark is absolutely right, is that safety makes you fat and weak, and it's also terrible for community, because here's the thing. What creates an engaged player base? What makes people party with each other in the real world? Right? What makes people want to meet each other in the real world? What makes people want to invest in EVE Online, invest in their corporation, invest in their alliance? It is shared struggle, right? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you are struggling. You have to fight. You have to rage against the dying of the light. And if you're out and honest, the only thing you're raging against is Cheetos and trying to, I don't know, wash the sort of flaps or whatever it is that you've turned into after all.
You can say piss jug on this show. It's okay.
There you go. Exactly.
Piss jug. There you go.
Piss jug in the corner. Look, the worst thing, the other thing that drives me crazy is when the groups get too fat and happy and the PvP starts drying up, then you get the worst thing in EVE Online, which is fucking ratting and mining drama. This is the worst shit ever. And if any of you guys have been in a big alliance and you have not seen this, then you're lying. It's the worst stuff ever. I have to disagree.
Well,
you like it because you're the one that gets to blow the people up that do it, Nam. Nam, you got a ton of stories about mining and ratting drama. Tell us some stories. I want to hear some stories. Because it drives me crazy that that's what happens.
Hold on, you got to tell us a specific kind of story. You got to tell us a story where the guy that was telling on someone ended up being the guy that gets shot. Because that's everybody's favorite kind of story. When the tattletale, too. Yes, you just quietly walk them out back, and you're like, "Oh, thank you so much for the information."
I don't actually have any of those off the top of my head.
Okay, well,
they all kind of blur together.
They really do. Like the names and the faces change, but like, so here's the thing.
But it's that's something that does happen quite often, and I always think of it. You see it in the real world. I always think of it as when assholes collide, like when two people are just so determined to be dicks to each other that nobody is right, and that's just all right. Ban both of them. Problem solved.
Basically, anybody can have, like, one of the things that I forget about, because I almost never discuss PvE because I do not PvE. But when it crops up, is that, like, okay, let's say that you're having a meeting, or you're like, if I'm talking about metagaming stuff, if I'm saying, here's how it is with espionage, here's how it is with running an alliance, people might say, fuck you, Mittens. But I don't really get you're doing it wrong. People go, okay, you know, you're an alliance leader, you're talking about running an alliance or whatever. The moment you touch PvE, suddenly it is everyone has a fucking opinion, because the fact is that almost everybody in EVE Online PvEs, and they, to be fair to the people making the drama, they don't think they're making the drama, they're playing PvE their way. And so for whatever it is for them in their mind, they believe that they are doing it the best way, and they have strong opinions about it. And those opinions are never contradicted by any real strategic necessity, because I don't give a shit what the fit of your ratting Nyx is, right? Like it doesn't matter to me. And unless it becomes a strategic thing, nobody's going to come over the top. In the past, it has become a strategic issue. We mandate fits and nobody gives us any grief, because again, it becomes strategic. But when it's not strategic, the PvE drama is endless, because everybody believes genuinely that they have the right idea and that the other person must be wrong, and nobody can decide who is actually right or wrong, because it doesn't fucking matter. It's PvE, for God's sakes.
But this is the thing that drives me. This is the thing that makes me laugh, because you get these guys who, in any other day, are complete anarchists. They don't follow the rules. I could give a shit about what the rules are. We're going to do it the way I feel like doing it. But the minute that you get them in a fucking mining anomaly, all of a sudden they turn into the worst little martinet fucking rules lawyers on the face of the earth out there. Well, I scanned his ship because I saw that he was not mining ochre first, and I noticed that he did not have the proper Rorqual fit here. I think you should do something about this. I mean, Jesus Christ.
God,
that kind of shit is the worst thing ever. I hate it. That's why I'd rather have people just blow each other up.
I think I can sum up almost all of the PvE drama that I have to deal with as people inventing their own rules and expecting other people to follow them.
Yeah,
Right.
Actually. Yeah.
You didn't call out this anomaly before I did, so therefore you must lead right now.
Exactly.
You
That
know,
has happened.
For years now. So I actually, 2 points. One, because of all of the unpleasant chaos in the world, May, I whiffed on the fact that and I don't know which exact date it was in May, because I whiffed on it so badly I didn't bother looking it up. As you can tell, I don't really care that much about like my birthday or anniversaries or any of these official dates, but I hit my 10-year anniversary as being the CEO of Goonstorm Federation, which is pretty fucking badass, and not exactly what I expected when I first took over the shit show. When it was 30 dudes in a fleet in Curse, of all things. But anyway, in the midst of this, I have always had a rule, because as you guys can see, PvE drama triggers me, right? You guys got to see me like flip my shit there a couple minutes ago. And so the rule has always been, the way that I don't have an aneurysm from rage about how much I do not give a shit about this crap and focus on beating the crap out of our enemies instead, is that if it ever reaches me, I am very likely to just rage out and shoot everybody involved. And that has always worked out, because people are afraid of, rightfully afraid, because I have splattered skulls about this, of getting to a point where I start, you know, the veins in my forehead start going, because it just drives me so crazy. As you guys got a little taste of there just a few minutes ago. But yeah.
It always makes it fun when people don't like my ruling. It's like, okay, well, you know, you're still in the Alliance. You want to go talk to Mittens about it?
The fact that anybody in Goons argues with you about anything, it just blows my mind. It makes no sense to me. It's just like I don't even get it. Why
is
take
a
the
democracy,
risk?
Brisk? I mean, the people voted, right? You know what I do when I know he's going to argue with me? I ask him really loaded questions that there's only two answers, and they're both the direction that I want to go with it. So he is a reasonable man, but I agree that with PvE, there's just this one. It's an insufferable segment of the game where you're just like, you know what? The funny thing is about all this, you can tear apart your friends, the people that are in your corporation, the people that are in your alliance, the people that are in your coalition. But what you are too stupid to realize is there's plenty of shit out there for everybody. We don't need to do this.
Right.
There is not the kind of scarcity where we actually have to like worry about, if we split this atom, is there enough to feed my family? You know, like, and it will never come to that. And yet for some reason, maybe this is something CCP has perfected, where they have made it such that becomes the hot button issue. Because
that's how big alliances fail. Right, drama.
We're not talking about, like, I don't know, I feel like Init's being kind of hard asses pushing up on Fountain. They're taking a little too much. You know, it's like, oh, we've got this VNI issue we need to talk to you about. It's a big deal.
Yeah, the whole thing is like, you know, I always want in a healthy alliance, regardless of whether it's Goonswarm or an Imperium alliance, or just a healthy alliance, is you guys work together in the trenches. You're all in the same alliance. You work together. You paper over the dumb shit. You try to not get emotional and scream at each other because you want to save that energy, that oomph you have, that anger, that rage, and you want to vent it on the bad guys, right? The entire galaxy, if you're a nullsec alliance, you have literally hundreds of thousands of enemies who want to see you and your friends lose everything they have, right? You're in a whole galaxy of people that wants to see you get fucked. And so why fight each other, right? There is an external force. Like in EVE Online, there is literally always an external enemy that is trying to ruin your shit. So keep your priorities straight.
So Mittens, is there anywhere, this made me think of something, because in our sort of space empire, we at least attempt to a degree to be well-rounded, right? And we try to do a little bit of everything, just so that regardless of what play style that a player may have, they can engage in it while under our roof.
Right.
Are there any groups that are left out there? Because I know it used to be a major thing in EVE, and maybe not so much anymore. Are there any groups that do the super I'm only a PvP group, or I'm only this kind of group? Or has everybody moved to a more homogenized type platform where we got to make money? We got I just wonder if that's still out there, where I know when I got recruited to my first corporation in EVE, years and years ago, it was like a corporation did one thing. We do one thing, and that's the only thing we do. And hopefully you like this one thing. Is it out there anymore?
If it is out there in any way, I would say, and I haven't checked on them because it's like headliners who are running around, like PL possibly. I mean, we did see PL shift to, okay, so let me back it up. CCP added the new moon mining system, and we're slamming down these refining platforms. And we talked about this on the Meta Show before, where essentially we in the Imperium believed that there would be an economic arms race. And so up until recently, for the last several years, the dominant sort of metagame winning, the victory condition of Sov Null was to have an effective economy and have that economy translate into skill goo, which translates into Titans, which translates into blowing up the other guy's Titan fleet. And so you wanted to have this virtuous circle of crabbing. It's funny because people are always, or during this period of time, people were whining on Reddit, as puppies do. Oh, goons, all they want to do is crab. They crab. That's what they're doing. All these roar calls. What was happening is those roar calls were mining stuff. We were making money, turning it into Titans, which we used to win every single super capital fight that we ever had during that era against our usual enemies, right? So there was a direct connection between economic activity and Titans and victory. And it took a couple of years for our competition to really start getting into the mining and seeing that necessity. But I think now most people in EVE, I think most alliances are much more open to all play styles because everything helps now. Before we don't do PvE stuff. That culture, I think, died when skill injectors came in, because now there is and when the ADM system went in, because now there is a direct military and strategic value for PvE activities. And so that's.
What were you going to say?
The market changes were, I think, a big part of that as well.
Yeah.
It was kind of hilarious in that first X7 fight, the Keepstar fight, where was it the North were unintentionally using the Doomsday bug to retether extremely quickly, and so we were losing Titans 2-1 at one point during that fight. But we're on Jabber doing the math, and they're still going to run out of Titans before we do.
Right. Yeah, it was mathed out to be like we could afford to lose 3 or 4 Titans to every one NC Titan that we blew up. But we did skip past that by just blowing up all their Titans and winning in the end.
Yeah, it turned out not to be necessary.
And Pando is pointing out here, and some other people are pointing out in chat, which is very accurate, is that at the corp level, it's very different. Like there are corps and very small alliances that are basically just 3 or 4 corps who do have very specialized playstyles, and that still exists. But at the multi-thousand player level, of alliances in Sov Null, I could be wrong, If there is some alliance that's super small and specialized, they're either not occurring to me or they're not big enough of a player on the chessboard to be on my radar, basically.
Well, I think there are still groups that would rather not have to do any of that stuff. I mean, Conifers comes to mind because they're always on my mind because I hate them. But they tend to be mostly PvPers. They're not the kind of guys that you're going to catch out on a work wall. That's just not their thing. I know Volta, obviously Volta, they're never going to be, you're never going to see a Volta rook wall sitting out in a belt somewhere. That's just not going to happen. So those types of groups, I think, are still, they're trying to live the PvP life, but it's hard. And it's one of the reasons why I think guys like Phantomite and me and others have been saying, would it be nice if we had passive income again? So these groups would not have to spend all their time doing stuff that they don't like to do in order to fund the stuff that they want to do. And that's one of the things I feel like we lost when we took out the passive moons. Plus, there was something to fight over.
This is a crazy thing that I know, for CCP, they sometimes get whiplash because we're like, listen, we need you to change this thing, only to 2 years later be like, you really fucked this up.
This is a bad idea.
You got to change it back. Yeah, so I know with like the passive moon mining, SOV systems or things like that, there is going to be some hesitancy to fire on those because you really
they went through a lot of effort to get rid of it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so you can never be right. So trying to like dial it into the Goldilocks zone on those particular issues where it's just perfect. I mean, the game's been out 17 years. It's going to take another 17 for us to get where we need to be. Can you imagine this show in 17 more years?
Oh
what a
God.
fucking disaster. We're going to have on VR goggles. I don't even want to say, I don't want to tell you what my imagination comes up with because you'll have no respect for me.
If I'm still playing this game in 17 years, I have a much bigger problem than what the show's going to look like.
Right.
But,
well, you know what?
I'll
but
only be
I guess it's interesting because as you start to like math out the what does it take, and chat's talking about it a lot, like you really can't ignore any activity unless you're a really small group. Once you pass a certain point, you just have to get in there and get after everything. Otherwise you're not going to be holding space anymore. Like Pando said a second ago, you're going to end up out in some far-flung low sex system, and the moment you pass that threshold, somebody's going to come kick your ass, so it really is just a super complicated and complex dance where you straddle a half a dozen different play styles and just try to quilt them together into a functional alliance and then eventually a coalition. And that's kind of where we are. I know, like, little explorer man coming from high sex, sure, we would love to have you. Are you going to contribute anything strategically to the bottom line? Not today, but maybe 2 years from now when you've skilled yourself into a Nix or you're out there doing whatever. But I think that's sort of you see a lot of alliances doing it now. It really doesn't matter how big they are anymore. Everybody, whether it's the Initiative, whether it's Goon Swarm, whether it's somebody in Legacy, whatever, PanFam, whoever, they're trying to sort of make there be an on-ramp for every kind of player, because that's it sort of just became a functional part of EVE. Back in the days, like 5-6 years ago, it was all captured through newbie organizations, like Get the Lightning in a Bottle newbie organization, where you're going to have stratospheric growth over a really short timeline. And now it seems like everybody's gotten a lot better at saying, you know what, these guys aren't all new, and that one size shoe doesn't fit everybody. Maybe we just need to do a better job of having our choose your own adventure book have a lot more options in it, so that everybody can find their way.
I mean, the old days of alliances that they were recruiting was you need to have at least 50 million skill points on your main character, and you need to bring at least one capital
the SP requirements for the elite PvP assholes. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Remember those? I mean, that's the thing. Like, that those days are gone because we all realized that just because you have a low SP character one day doesn't mean that the next day you're not going to have a higher one. So in the end, it's better to get people in that care about and want to play and grow them into, your next leadership person or your next, skilled FC or whatever, than to say, we only want people who are veterans.
It's a competition, right? Like the thing is that as time has gone by, because we've been playing this game for a long ass time now, the nullsec empires have done absolutely everything that they can to compete with one another, right? And what people have realized is that if you're leaving an opportunity to outcompete your opponent, on the table, then maybe they will take that opportunity. But regardless, you are less strong as an organization and more likely to lose if you're not leveraging every single aspect of the game of EVE Online to the greater good of your alliance, right? So yeah, like it's become I think that people have realized that it is important because, as Merkelchen brought up, like, you know, that person who comes on as a clueless newbie who just wants to run data sites or something, if he hangs out with a bunch of people who drop nixes on people all day, maybe he'll want to drop nixes on people all day, and that might be your future Super Cap FC. You just don't know. So yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen, we've hit our hour.
Oh yeah, we have.
I mean, this was pretty quick. It felt like no time. I guess
time flies when you're
just
ranting.
Hanging out, chatting. It's quick. Any parting words for the crew before we get out of here? Nom, interceptor interdiction.
Nom, go ahead, please, by all means, my friend.
No, I'm gonna go with that. Like, kill all nullification, put it on shuttles, problem solved.
I do love that they gave out like CSM shuttles and stuff as a gift now. That's cool. I got to fly that thing around.
The thing about gate camping is that it's a fairly low skill form of PvP that anyone can grab 2 or 3 friends and go do. And
I mean, gate camping is just a ton of fun. Like, it's actually like yeah, absolutely. Sitting around a fire and randomly, you know, shotgunning. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, yeah. Merkelchen, you got anything before we go?
I guess the only thing that I would say is it was another good year. Congratulations, everybody, again. Like, we did it. High fives all around.
High fives all around.
Everybody got to kind of see behind the scenes how the voting system works, how it breaks down, how you fucking wormholers, you played yourself. I don't know what to say. It's just comical at this point. Stop playing yourself.
Congratulations.
Okay, we would get Azuki back to the table. The dude knows what he's talking about, and you're fucking up right now. But beyond that, you know, just it was nice to see the vote. Seemed like a lot of people turned out. I think the community team at CCP did a really good job with the presentation. It was interesting for people to kind of see the breakdown mathematically. Boy, that was a hell of a PowerPoint. Can't imagine how long that shit took. It would have taken me 6 months to do that.
Gotta give Aurora a raise for that shit.
Right, yeah. You know, and we were all
put a lot of work into that. Yeah, every single round went through, yeah.
It was like eggshells and arrhythmia as we waited that one out. But you know what? Fuck it. It's different, right? We've all been doing this a really long time. So we'll take flipping tables over any day of the week. So thanks everybody that went out and voted. We do appreciate it. And next year, by God, do it all the same. And you wormholers, you fix your shit.
Absolutely. For me, last thing, I just want to say, look, guys, thanks for trusting me again. You know, I know after what happened in CSM 13, there were still a lot of people out there that thought that I was full of shit and that it was the big, mean American politician who lobbied and bullied the little Icelandic company into letting him off with a slap on the wrist or whatever they wanted to say happened. But the fact is, you know, I understand that there were people out there that felt that way. This, to me, more than anything, my wife said the day before, after, how did you feel? Like this morning, she was like, how do you feel this morning? And I felt good last night. I was happy, but what I said to her is I said I felt vindicated. Yeah. I felt like all the stuff that happened, now, if anything, my name should be 100% clear. Because despite all the, you know, we got the apologies and all the other kind of stuff, the real thing for me was always going to be, I need to get back on. I need to do a full term. I need to prove to the community that I am the guy that I said I was, that I'm out there busting my ass every day on their behalf. And that's the fact that enough people were willing to trust me again, even after everything that happened, to do that meant a lot. So thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity.
There's a small tear there, but yeah, no, absolutely. It's great. I think, you know, it's obvious you are vindicated, right? You got reelected and CCP apologized and you're back where you should have been in the first place. So justice has been served. Awesome. I got nothing. I'm done.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. We hope you all enjoyed the Fireside edition of the Meta Show. This has been our show for Sunday. Pine cones to Linda Est, and you stay classy, New Eden.